Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on our conversation and discussion with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion collection during this year of 2020. And today I'd like to talk about a film that has been released on Blu-ray earlier this year, and is a title that already exists currently in the Criterion collection as a DVD or as a Disc 1, Disc 2 DVD. Sp.No 360. And this is the work, or to be more specific, these are the works that are from the filmmaker William Greaves. And it is Take One and Take 2.5. And what I'm talking about is this. Symbiopsychotaxiplasm, 2 takes by William Greaves. So this is the work which is at Sp.No 360, or to be more specific, these are the works that are assigned Sp.No 360. These works are by William Greaves. The first is described as being from 1968. That is Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. The second is described as being from 2005, which is Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5. These works are extraordinary, and in many ways, in many ways, they could be said to defy explanation, because they are truly unique, avant-garde level films that challenge the viewer's expectations of what it is to try to create a film, what it is to try to express these stories that may or may not seem at the surface to be in any way perhaps culturally highly significant. But perhaps that is the point, because the further we dig into the mysteries and the paradoxes and the seemingly simple situations, and we dig deeper, I think we realize that with each of these films respectively, we find a really complex, philosophically based and scientifically based set of network and possibilities and connections. And those connections are horizontal and they are also vertical, by which I mean those connections are horizontally made within the context of the world that is depicted by the film itself. And also it's made vertically by virtue of the fact that we are dealing with levels of meta-reality. And we as viewers have to confront or deal with or try to grapple with the various circumstances and implications that these horizontal links and vertical links have for purposes of our connection or our engagement with each of these works. And I should focus too on the fact that each work, while connected very directly with each other, and specifically how, say, Take 2.5 features some aspects that are specifically relevant to Take One, but also current to the time, but also taken many years later. I think we can see that while there are certain similarities, there are also some striking differences that make for really compelling viewing when taking these two individually, but also together as perhaps one symbiotic whole. The general approach of this film, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One, could be said to be a situation wherein we see a filmmaker, William Greaves, dealing with the production that involves the shooting on film of a particular scene involving two characters. And this becomes the dramatic focus of what these filmmakers are trying to capture. The Freddie and Alice storyline, if you will. From there, however, we get various modes of depiction of these realities. And I use the word realities in the plural form because we have various film cameras or crews that are focusing in on specific levels of depiction. One being on the actual filmmaking itself, and another being on making the film. And then yet we have this other layer that is beyond or extended, as I say, on this vertical plane of a film about a film about a film. And from there we get these various twists and turns about what it is we are seeing. Is it what we are seeing truly a documentary? Is it a quasi-documentary? Is it a pseudo-documentary? Is it a faux documentary? Or is it one or more or all of the above? In which case, I think we get the sense of how challenging, how truly dynamic, and how profound this work is. And taken in the context of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One, there are various themes and concerns, both direct and also nuanced, that are at play. We have to remember that William Greaves is an incredibly bold and brilliant and highly, highly intelligent filmmaker. This comes through so evidently in the film itself, because he appears in the film, but also in the subject matter of the supplements discussion. I'll get to that in a moment. But because of this high degree of intelligence, William Greaves seems to be bringing together a whole set of themes and concerns. One of which is, as I say, this playful dialogue and banter that exists between and among the various levels of reality, or the various realities that are presented here. So that creates this sense of self-reflexivity on the art of filmmaking itself. From there, we get various connections about the notion and concept of documentary or cinema itself, and the ability or inability for cinema to capture that essential aspect of reality, right? If we are to go along with the generally accepted notion or assumption that documentary film is somehow capturing the essence of the reality of a particular situation, I think this film goes into a discussion of whether or not that is truly what is capable in terms of documentary, or perhaps that is an illusion. And we get this very clearly when we consider William Greaves's discussion or concerns about Heisenberg and the uncertainty principle. And to put it in very general terms, because I'm not a student or academic or a scientist, but if we were to put it in the context of this film or filmmaking, I think we can say that this uncertainty principle could be applied by saying or describing it to be the inability to capture the essence of the reality of the situation, because somehow the mechanical or the mechanics or the mechanisms that are employed to try to capture that essence somehow have an altering effect on the reality of the situation. Thus, creating this, I think, essential dilemma in filmmaking, documentary filmmaking, but filmmaking writ large, which is, what is the true capability of cinema vis-a-vis reality? And once we have that dilemma fully in place, I think we can see that a viewing of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One takes on this added dimension of certainty and uncertainty. And when we are on the grounds that are very shaky and uncertain, I think we are truly in for a very vivid and wild ride indeed from the viewer's standpoint. Again, this is all in the context of the discussion of cinema and self-reflexivity and the ability or inability, question mark, to capture reality or the essence of reality via cinema. And this is a very essential question of the capability of cinema. Or are we to take it that all cinema is artifice? If that's the case, what are we to make, therefore, of the various sets of realities that we see presented in this film. So I think we get this very interesting dialogue that is wonderfully circular and very self-reflexive and quite paradoxical. And questions lead to more questions, lead to more questions, which I think is at the heart of great cinema and great art in and of itself. So that's one aspect. Then we have the whole notion of the depiction of drama and dialogue and action in this film. Because after all, one way to look at this film is as a kind of drama or action film with events that occur, protagonists and antagonists and the like. And oftentimes we see this dialogue presented in the film, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One, in the context of revolt and revolution. And I think if we remember the historical significance of the context in which this film is being made, 1968, we have various uprisings and social movements and the Vietnam War. That is on the world stage and also on the domestic stages of many countries involved, including the United States, then I think we can see the potential of various forms of metaphor that are created, even within the context of what this might seem to be, which is a crew coming together in a park trying to make a film. There are so many possibilities that lead into the infinite. Based on what seems to be making something out of thin air, out of nothing, which is at the heart of what makes this film so brilliant in my eyes, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So the possibility of various metaphor that create current contexts is also at the heart of this. In that conversation also, we have to remember, and this is made very clear in the discussion of the film by William Greaves and others in the documentary and the supplements, and I'll get to that in a moment, which is the African-American filmmaker, William Greaves, is making a film where he is the center of the film. He is in many ways the hero. And we have other participants who seem to be trying to wrestle the creative controls away from William Greaves. And that becomes its own nuanced discussion of race relations during this context. And if you think about that and the historical context of civil rights in the United States, then I think we can see this film in its own brilliantly subtle way as adding to a discussion of this in the context of race relations and cinema and the creative process and what it means to be someone of color in this position of creative control and trying to confront various aspects of revolt or revolution. I'm not saying for a moment that the film is directly depicting any kind of racist-based race relations that exist in between or among the cast or crew members. I don't think that's the case, at least on a direct level. But I'm saying, taking a step back on a more broad or metaphorical level, I think it is very clear that we have, at the very essence at least, a kind of discussion about what it means to be in this type of position of creative control and the like. And so I think that kind of discussion is inescapable, and it's important and contextualized, and it's also being made and referred to by William Greaves and other participants, say, in the documentary. So it is an essential aspect of the consideration of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. Then if we go to the second work, which is Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5, what we have, of course, is on the one hand, a kind of continuation of what was left off by the conclusion of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So on one hand, we have the rest of the story, with the footage that was shot but ultimately not used for that Take One. But we see what the aftermath of that was. So in one sense, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5 is a continuation of Take One. But then we know that Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5 goes into a more contemporary, current turn, where we have the application of video cameras used and being used to shoot, for example, William Greaves and the showing, the screening of Take One, and also William Greaves now trying to make a similar type of film using two of the actors that appeared in Take One and trying to have them reprise or recreate their roles that they were playing earlier, Freddie and Alice. But now we see the actors after a certain number of years have passed, also their characters after a certain number of years have passed, and also William Greaves and company after a certain number of years have passed. So once again, just like with Take One, in Take 2.5, we have the same assembly of horizontal and vertical connections, networking, and the way that these realities, again in the plural, seem to intersect and connect within and among each other. So we have this brilliant dialogue that was initiated and engaged with so forcefully and so poetically and brilliantly in Take One, now continued on in this modern context in Take 2.5. With that, of course, we also have the effects of time. We also have the effects of aging. We also have the effects of human drama. And what we see might or might not be real. And I underscore the phrase might not, but I also underscore the phrase might, because it could be real. What we are seeing could be a real expression of what it is these people that we see depicted are feeling in the moment. Or it could be total artifice. Or it could be something of a hybrid between the two positions. Who knows? In any event, we see the added dimension of time and age, and how this affects or doesn't affect the process of human connections. Because after all, what we are dealing with in the admittedly Arthur Bentley-based concept of what ended up becoming in William Greaves's hands Symbiopsychotaxiplasm, right, is the notion of human interconnectivity. Whether that human interconnectivity is formed in the basis of true reality or a sense of artifice, it is still the sense of human connectivity and the sort of biological and emotional and intellectual processes that occur and exist within the human minds of everyone who is participating, and how these connections relate and turn and become form a process. So that is, I think, in my very crude way and simplistic way, my attempt to try to explain the essence of the concept of symbiopsychotaxiplasm, again in the hands of William Greaves. And in that context, this Take 2.5 becomes very exciting because in addition to the concepts or the discussions of, say, a sort of kind of interconnectivity on a political or socio-political level that we saw most prominently, I would suggest, in Take One, here in Take 2.5, we would it might be suggested that we have maybe a take that is not wholly bereft of those, because after all, there are discussions of current political climates and the U.S. politics at the time. But perhaps it could also be said that in addition to that, or in lieu of that to a certain degree, in Take 2.5 we have an examination of this interconnectivity, the symbiopsychotaxiplasm of the title, but in the context, as I say, of aging and time, and how these temporal elements too have an effect on this notion of the way in which we connect within, among, between, and outside of each other. So this is the reason why I think Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5 is an essential, brilliant piece of avant-garde cinema from this great, masterful philosopher of avant-garde art, who is William Greaves. So this is the presentation we're getting from Criterion. Symbiopsychotaxiplasm, 2 takes by William Greaves, which includes, of course, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 1 and Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5. So with that, we should say that the Criterion Blu-ray is, as I say, a Blu-ray of an earlier and still current DVD release, again at Spine 360. This DVD release had the presentation on 2 discs, and it was described as being a new high-definition digital transfer. This Blu-ray is also described as a high-def digital transfer. So my understanding is that it seems to be the same transfer. In any event, we are getting a film that looked great on DVD and I think looks great and sounds great on Blu-ray. So it's worth checking out whatever format is to your liking. Also, we are getting all the supplements that we saw on this DVD presentation. Of course, the supplements and the films were divided into, as I say, 2 separate discs on DVD. Here we're getting 1 Blu-ray disc, and so everything is combined into 1 disc. So we get the 2 films, plus we get the supplements, which are the documentary Discovering William Greaves, and this is approximately 1 hour and 1 minute. This is from 2006, as it's described, and it's featuring William Greaves and also Ruby Dee and Scott McDonald and Sinclair Bourne, and also William Greaves' wife and co-producer Louise Archambault Greaves, etc. And this is a great documentary. This is so great, and this is charting the life and professional and personal life and biography of William Greaves in the first half. And we see how his background as an artist, as an actor, and the types of opportunities that were either afforded or denied him during his life, and what he tried to do in the face of such situations and adversity. And what he did was try to find his place to learn about the craft of filmmaking in whatever form he was able to do at the time. And he worked very hard, and from there he became an active filmmaker, which led ultimately to his creation of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. From there we get the documentary, which focuses in around the second half about a discussion of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. This discussion is so eye-opening. We get immediately the depth of William Greaves' intelligence. He is so intelligent, and he has so many ideas that are wrapped within the context of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm. It's breathless in the way in which he is discussing these ideas, and you realize the profound scope of this work. So this documentary therefore becomes so essential, not just as an examination and way of celebrating the life and work of William Greaves, but also hearing his and other contemporary takes on this brilliant work, Take One, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So that in and of itself is great. Then it goes into a discussion of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take Two for the remaining moments of the documentary. And this is also very interesting and fascinating, because it allows for the opportunity to have a discussion about what happened in William Greaves' career between the late 60s and the 2000s, and what his career, what the career entailed, and also the circumstances behind what eventually became Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5, which in turn is related to a discovery or rediscovery by current audiences of Take One itself. So that in and of itself becomes a really fascinating story, an example of why this documentary is so worth watching. Please check it out if you can. Discovering William Greaves. And then we have a 12-minute or so interview with Steve Buscemi from 2006. And this is very important, as we know, because Steve Buscemi is so integral in not just the discovery or rediscovery of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One, but also his involvement in Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5. And so this is a very important set of interview, or this is an important interview with Steve Buscemi, and he also refers to Steven Soderbergh's involvement in what ended up becoming Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5 and the like, and he also talks about his own involvement in the filmmaking process itself, and also how William Greaves was allowing him to play a kind of director or co-director role, which in and of itself is fascinating, because not only it shows the extent to which Steve Buscemi was involved in the making of the film, but also it shows the extent to which William Greaves is a filmmaker and how he interacts with various participants. And so many illuminating aspects to this interview. So that's another essential one. Again, approximately 12 minutes. And then to round that out, we have a trailer, which is described as being a trailer from the 2005 release or re-release of Take One, Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So that is it as far as the supplements are concerned. But then we have the booklet, and I'm so happy because it is a booklet that is a staple booklet that is reminiscent of the earlier DVD booklet, which is also a staple booklet. So it's wonderful because we get a number of writings. First, we get the Amy Taubin essay, Sp.No Answers, which is a brilliant essay. Again, this is a complex work, and I think it requires a lot of consideration and contemplation. And this essay by Amy Taubin really helps to guide us. It certainly helps to guide me along the way in terms of trying to grapple with the implications of these works. So this is essential. And then we have production notes, which is described as being notes by William Greaves himself, made before and during the filming of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. And this is, again, essential because this indicates, to a certain degree, the extent to which the care and thought that William Greaves was showing, and what it was he was really involved with, and what he was trying to consider when conceptualizing Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So this is yet another example of the profound scope of his intelligence and artistic ambition when it comes to Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One. So essential stuff. So I'm so glad these are expressed and shown in the way that they are in this booklet. Again, mirroring what we had in the earlier DVD, which was great, by the way. And so with that, my friends, this is Symbiopsychotaxiplasm 2 Takes by William Greaves. I've had the great pleasure of speaking a little bit about these works, or this presentation overall, in a past video here on my YouTube channel, but I am so happy that Criterion has decided to re-release this time on a Blu-ray format, for hopefully many more people to watch and enjoy and explore and consider. Because, well, first of all, you're getting not one but two films, so in that way you're getting two for the price of one. And you are getting two films that are very much connected with each other, but also on their own separate planes in ways that I was trying to describe briefly in the earlier part of this video, thus making for fascinating opportunities and possibilities, and also great discussions along the way. As I say, there's so much here to consider, and so I would strongly suggest, strongly recommend, if you're interested, checking out Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take One and Symbiopsychotaxiplasm Take 2.5, both of which are included on this presentation by Criterion, which is called Symbiopsychotaxiplasm 2 Takes by William Greaves. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now, and so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.